Hello you heroes of the interweb tubes, it is I, Dave.
And here, as proof that not all heroes wear capes, it's your very own boy Jacob.
Today we're checking out the latest Samsung SSD and the very first SATA drive we've seen to use the new QLC memory technology.
It's not QLC.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the whole point of us doing this video review thing.
It's not QLC.
It's called a freaking QVO drive. What else could it be?
It's not QLC, it's called 4-bit MLC memory.
Of course it is. Bloody Samsung. Awkward.
To be honest, referring to the latest NAND flash memory tech as 4-bit MLC, as Samsung does with its new 860 QVO SSD range, makes a lot more sense than the more prevalent QLC moniker. It's the logical extension of the SSD NAND standards, which have been packing out solid-state drives since their inception.
We started out with single-level cell NAND, or SLC, then we moved on to multi-level cell, or MLC. This was the first time that we could store more than a single bit on a memory cell, making it a 2-bit design. Subsequently, we've had triple-level cell, or TLC NAND, which is 3-bit, and this latest quad-level cell is, you guessed it, 4-bit.
Samsung doesn't use the TLC or QLC naming schemes and simply refers to anything that isn't straight single-level cell tech as MLC. Hence 2-bit, 3-bit, and now 4-bit MLC.
Yeah, simple, right? The benefit of storing more than a single bit per cell is increased storage density, so you get more capacity in the same number of memory chips, which either allows for higher capacity drives at the same price, or the same capacity at a lower price.
That's the promise of QLC, delivering high capacity SSDs that mean we no longer have to exclusively think of a system where we have a small SSD boot drive and a large traditional hard drive for extended storage. We should now be able to have large solid state drives for everything.
That's the dream. But there are very tangible drawbacks to jamming more bits into a memory cell. As you increase the density, you also decrease performance, and you also hurt the endurance of the memory cell too, meaning your SSD may not last as long.
But that's been the situation through all forms of MLC memory, and the mitigations that SSD manufacturers, like Samsung, have learned over the years to deal with those problems can all largely be applied to QLC.
So now we should be getting big SSDs with decent performance for a great price. Indeed, the smallest 860 QVO drive Samsung offers comes in at 1TB, with 2 and 4TB options also available.
The new Samsung 860 QVO SSD is the first basic SATA drive we've had in the office using the first generation of QLC memory. But rather than being a new generation of SSD, it's more of a refresh.
Yeah, the 860 EVO, released earlier this year, was Samsung's last SATA drive using the 3-bit MLC memory. And the QVO is identical in every aspect aside from its use of the 4-bit MLC memory inside it.
That means you're getting the same Samsung MJX memory controller, 1GB of LPDDR4 DRAM cache, and the same TurboWrite SSD caching technology. This last bit is important as it's the tech primarily responsible for mitigating the performance decline of the QLC NAND.
It does this by retaining some of the NAND memory inside the SSD as single-level cell, which is much faster than QLC. As standard, there is 6GB of SLC memory held in reserve, which means that any write operations undertaken by the system that are less than 6GB in size are able to occur at SLC speed.
Thanks to the intelligent side of the TurboWrite tech, however, if the write operation, or immediately consecutive write operations, exceed that 6GB mark, this 1TB drive can utilize up to another 36GB of spare capacity to operate as SLC memory. That means you get a full 42GB of potential SLC memory at your disposal to keep write performance high.
Which is good, because if you look at the specs, you can see that with TurboWrite utilising the SLC memory, the drive will write at 520MB per second. But using the QLC alone, that drops down to 80MB per second.
Compared with the 1TB version of the Samsung 860 EVO, where its TLC memory drops from 550MB per second under the same version of TurboWrite down to 500MB per second, you can see the potential performance difference between QLC and TLC.
4-bit MLC and 3-bit MLC.
Whatever.
The good news is that when you look at the straight synthetic benchmarks, there is very little difference between the 860 EVO and the 860 QVO. Both SSDs, whether using the sequential read-write test of the Atto benchmark or the AS-SSD test using incompressible data, the transfer speeds are very similar.
That's not massively surprising given that they are still talking about SATA-based SSDs, and they have a hard and fast 600MB per second speed limit, where practically all drives on that protocol are sitting around the 500MB mark as standard.
Even the 4K random read-write performance is very close. These are representative of the thousands of tiny read-write operations your OS will be doing behind the scenes throughout the time you're using your PC.
Where there is a difference, however, is in the real-world benchmarks. The compression of the 5GB game folder is very speedy, Up there with the best of them, but the 30GB mixed file folder transfer is the slowest we've seen in many a long year. At over 6 minutes, it takes almost twice as long as the EVO.
Yeah, even the turbo-write cache couldn't quite help it maintain full speed through the entire of that 30GB write operation.
That's the impact QLC has on overall performance, but what about the other side of the 4-bit MLC conundrum? Endurance.
Yeah, well, that's where things get a little bit tricky. Whether 1TB 860 EVO has a 5-year warranty or a 600TB total bytes written limit, the 1TB 860 QVO has a 3-year warranty and a 360TB TBW limit. That actually equates to the same daily write figure of 329GB per day, but does mean that Samsung only has confidence in the QLC drive operating at that extreme level for 3 years, as opposed to the TLC drive maintaining it for a full 5 years.
Since the rise of the NVMe drive taking the SSD performance crown, the SATA crowd has been beating the endurance drum. You've got to have some stamina for that. So it kind of feels a little weird to be going backwards on that front. But saying that, who's going to be writing 329GB to their SSD every day?
Yeah, if you are, we'd maybe suggest you have bigger problems than just which NAND type you should be using.
It's worth first pointing out that the problems with using QLC memory are the same issues introduced with MLC and then TLC too. The mitigations are largely the same, so it's very likely that when the first full generation of QLC SSDs with memory controllers specifically geared up for 4-bit MLC are released, both performance and endurance concerns could be a thing of the past.
Yeah, but as it is, the new 860 QVO drives feel like a bit of a stopgap measure, changing nothing but the NAND from the previous EVO design.
But any slight problem we might have with the performance or endurance of the QVO drive would be completely forgotten if we were getting a decently quick 1TB SSD for an unprecedented price. And at £137 for this 1TB 860 QVO, that would have been unprecedented this time last year.
But we're still in the post-Black Friday nuclear winter, where memories of the bargain prices of the 1TB 860 EVO SSDs are still fresh in the mind. Those prices have now gone back up, so they are now once more pricier than the new QVO drives. But the cut in global NAND prices has somewhat taken the wind out of the QLC SSD sales.
Don't get us wrong, that's a great price for a 1TB drive, but there are still TLC SSDs with the same capacity and higher performance available for around the same price. And that makes it a little harder to get excited about the QVO.
We've no doubt that QLC will eventually be the standard for high-capacity SSDs, but as the price of NVMe SSDs is also dropping, those will end up as our endurance-happy, speedy boot drives, while the rest of our Steam libraries languish on a big 4-bit MLC drive.
Thanks for watching, being there, and just generally being you. And if you've liked what you've seen, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, ring the bell, and tell us what you think about Samsung's new SSD in the comments section below.
And don't forget to check out PCGamesN.com for all the latest PC gaming and hardware news, reviews, and features.
Bye!